How's it going, everyone? Justin here with MyManjustins Collectible Emporium, and I'm your man for Pokemon cards, card analysis, and Pokemon investment consulting. Today I wanted to do a video on a theory I had, and that theory was that the Jungle Set and Fossil Set Pokemon cards seemed to look to me to be the only Wizards of the Coast sets that didn't seem to be following the same trend as other Wizards of the Coast sets. And in my past videos I've done analysis on them, and it seems like, as a general rule, Wizards of the Coast holo cards especially have had about a 33% increase on price over the past year. And with the Jungle and Fossil Set cards, I had suspicions that they weren't necessarily following this trend. So I did some research using the eBay tool on my store, and I actually found out something pretty insightful in regards to their sales. So what I did is I did what I usually do in my card analysis videos. I looked at their sales in the past 30 days, the past year as a whole, and a 30-day period exactly a year ago. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to go into a few cards that I did analysis on. I did Fossil Ditto Holo Unlimited, the Fossil Articuno Holo Unlimited from the Fossil set, and then 3 cards from the Jungle set: the Scyther Unlimited Holo, the Flareon Holo Unlimited, and the Vileplume Holo. And I chose those cards specifically because the Scyther and the Flareon would be representative of more popular cards, and the Vileplume among the less desirable or less popular cards as far as sales go. And the same thing with the Ditto, the Articuno being a bit more popular. It's one of the more valuable cards in the Fossil set, and Ditto kind of a middle of the road, maybe a higher middle of the road card. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The first card I looked at was the Fossil Ditto Holo, and I looked at cards that were sold as near mint condition unlimited holo. So in the past year, there was 997 sold with 679 sellers. So with these sets, they tend to be less scarce in their sales, unlike the, say, EX era sets, which I believe had a bit lower of print runs at that time in Pokemon. It was kind of at a down point, and they weren't necessarily printing as much cards as they were in the beginning of Pokemon, when they were just getting them out to the masses. It was largely popular, and they couldn't even print enough to meet the demand. So we're seeing a bit more of these sold, where we'll see 1,000 of these sold on eBay in the past year. With the EX sets, we'll see much lower than that, up to 90%, even less, maybe even 100 sold of the really rare EX era cards. So with the Ditto, we saw 997 sold. In the past 30 days, the near mint selling price points for it were about $10 to $17. That was about the variation between, in the sold prices. There was 116 sold in the last month, and that's one thing I want to bring to your attention about, that I found that I think was the most insightful about this current market analysis, is the amount sold and the prices, and I'll talk more about that. So a year ago, in a 30-day period, there was 72 sold, so there was a bit less sold. Pokemon has gotten a bit more active. There's more people getting involved in buying and selling, and we're seeing an increase in numbers sold by themselves. Now, the average prices sold was about the same a year ago, about $10 to $17. So at first glance at this, I was like, okay, so I'm right. These cards have kind of peaked out. They've really reached their stabilized price as far as sales, and we can expect to see them kind of stay somewhat similar over the foreseeable future. But the thing is that technically, with the inflation and the amount sold, they've actually technically increased in price, because the fact that they've been able to stay the same price while having more introduced in the market sold means they've actually increased in value. So that's one thing I noticed. So what that means is that there can be some potential increase in price. But nonetheless, these are much more stable than a lot of other cards. So whereas with, like, say, for example, EX cards and even Diamond and Pearl cards, those are cards that you can invest in more so on a shorter term basis and start seeing that return on your money on short-term investments. Whereas these cards, they're kind of stabled out. You're not going to be able to just flip these really quick. So the next card I looked at was the Articuno Holo in the Fossil set. And over the past 365 days, the past year, there was 1,365 sold. And in the past 30 days, there was 167 sold, and the average selling price for them went for anywhere from $14 to $25. And when I went back a year ago, there was 96 sold, so much bigger disparity, 167 to 97. There's about 40% more sold in the last month than of a year ago. And the selling prices again were about the same, about $14 to $25. So again, what that means is that it may appear that they're actually just stabilized in price. They actually have increased in value, because with that kind of increase in amount available, the value has increased, even though the actual absolute price amount is the same. So again, it still speaks to the overall. They are actually technically seeing an increase in value similar to that of Wizard of the Coast collections. I will say that overall, these are being traded a lot more. Their absolute sales price amounts are really high. So a lot of people have kind of acquired these now, which is why I think we're seeing more drastic increases on price in sets after the Wizard of the Coast era, and they're starting to see their big increase on price. So I think as far as good investments, I think those are going to be the cards that we see in a year from now have the drastic increases in price that we've seen on some of the other Wizard of the Coast sets from a year ago. Now, the next card I looked at was the Jungle Holo Scyther, which is one of the more popular holo cards in the Jungle set. In the past year, there was 1,136 sold. In the past 30 days, the amount sold were 114, and the price of them went from anywhere from $17 to $25. A year ago, there was only 58 sold, so about half as much, and these actually had a much higher, a more drastic reduction in price. Their average price for the near mint holo was around $5 to $10. So what this means to me is that the more sought after cards in these sets do still have the potential to increase in price as more people get into collecting, especially on the higher grades, because they want to get them graded and so forth. But this card, we see a much more drastic price differentiation from 5 to 17 to 25. So that was interesting. So the more sought after cards may still be viable short-term investments, especially for grading purposes. Next card I looked at was the Flareon Jungle Holo, another really popular one. It was the first Evolution holo rare cards that they released in the English sets. In the past year, there was 1,333 sold, and in the past 30 days, there's been 172 sold, and the average selling prices for it in the near mint unlimited holo is $10 to $20. And a year ago, there was 79 sold, so more than 50% increase on price from the past year, and their price again was about the same, from $10 to $20 in sold price. So that's about following the same trend, same amount of price, but a fairly high increase in value due to the fact that there's more people buying it. So that the fact that it's able to maintain that kind of price when there's more introduced in the market is how you can understand that the actual value has increased. Because if there's more introduced into a market, if there's not the demand, the price will actually go down. But here we have it staying even, so that's good. That means that the demand is staying steady. I think that's one of the bigger insights on this too, is that even as more cards get introduced into the market, the demand is not fully met. It's able to stay steady. The last card I looked at was the Jungle Holo Vileplume. Past year, 971 sold. It's a little less of a desirable card than the past two. And the past 30 days, there's been 130 sold, and the average selling price has been about $15 to $17. A year ago, there's been 48 sold, and this one we did see a little bit of reduction in price. Their average selling price is anywhere from $5 to $10. So from 15 to 17, up from 5 to 10 a year ago, with about a 60% increase in availability on the market. So with that insight, I think some of the things to take away from this are that the demand of Pokemon is staying very high. Even with the increased availability of cards, that isn't itself driving the price of cards down. They are able to maintain their value. And as far as the investability of these sets now, that's where I think the most important question is. As far as the answer to this question, I think it's this. I think what has really peaked out is the amount being introduced into the market. I don't think we're going to continue to see an increase that we've seen in the past year. So say with the Vileplume, we went from 48 sold to 130 sold. I don't think in a year we're going to see that 130 go up the similar 60% to 290 or whatever it would be. I think the amount sold has met its kind of threshold. I don't think we're going to see the similar types of amounts introduced into the market, but that's not such a bad thing, because that still means that the price itself, I think maybe when the market catches up to it, I think it'll actually bump the sold prices up in the next year. So I still think they are viable investments, especially if you can get them in good condition, versus the other Wizards of the Coast. So I think it's good to know this. Don't write off the Jungle and Fossil set cards. You know, these are the second and third sets released. They're very old, which is another reason why getting a better condition of them is a bit more impressive. There's probably, well, there is a lot of less than near mint condition cards. So if you're going to look for these cards to invest in, I would say go for the excellent to near mint to mint cards. And I think those cards will see a bit of an increase in price over the next year. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed hearing that. I hope you found the information insightful and it is helpful to your own collecting and investing practices. And until the next video, I'll see you then. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks.